Well, let's get more on this now. I'm joined by employment barrister and chair of the Industrial Law Society, Casper Glynn. Good evening to you, Casper Glynn. Is this a major victory for workers?
No, it isn't. Far from it. I think it's, if anything, the certainty we have today is a victory for employers. And that is what the court has decided is that workers have been underpaid for the past 16 years, but workers can now only go back for 3 months. So all the claims of businesses being ruined as a result of this litigation are wrong.
Because that's quite a different take on it to what the unions have been telling us today, isn't it? That this is fantastic news, that workers are now going to be entitled to huge amounts of money, and as you say, fears that this is going to ruin some businesses.
Well, I think what the judge did actually is he did what perhaps that oldest of all judges did, Solomon, is he cut the baby in half. What he did on one hand is he made sure that employees couldn't go back 16 years, so that was his decision in favour of the employers. But on the other hand, he said to employees, look, you haven't been paid what you should have been paid. What you should be paid is normal pay when you're on holiday. So going forwards, and 3 months back, you're going to get your normal pay.
So who is eligible for this? If I volunteer to do overtime, does that count towards my holiday pay, or is it just compulsory?
In today's judgment, it's just compulsory. But let's face it, the reason I'm here is because you want a lawyer not to sit on the fence. You don't want some splinters in my backside. So I'll get off the fence and I'll say clearly, this judgment is paving the way, as judgments have before it, that in the future, I think in British courts, what we will find is that normal pay should be holiday pay. That is, if you volunteer for overtime in the future, that's what you should get paid. That's not the law now, but it's what I think the law will be in a few years' time.
We've had a few questions from viewers. Mick Dunn has said, can we get backdated pay and from what year? Well, you've set that out. It's going back 3 months, but not yet.
Yes.
Nicola Butterworth has said, what is a sufficient period of time for payment to justify the label of normal pay?
Well, Sarah, what's normal? I don't know what normal is. In terms of regular payments, so say someone working 5 hours of overtime a month, in my view, that will be enough. So just something that's regular enough to be normal. That
there is a pattern that can be seen.
Exactly right.
OK, and another question from Nicola. Does this ruling set a precedent for breaking a series of deductions from wages?
It certainly does, and that's the good news for employers. They're not going to face ruin. What you have here is the judge said any gap of more than 3 months breaks your series of deductions.
Why is unpaid overtime not breaking the minimum pay rules? William Barnes wants to know.
William, it's got nothing to do with the minimum pay rules. This is about holiday pay. It's nothing to do with minimum wage, which is £6.50 for adult employees. And so they're completely distinct rights. OK.
And in terms of future contracts, employers are going to have to factor this in, aren't they?
Absolutely. At the moment, it only applies to 20 out of 28 days of holiday leave. In fact, you might think trying to analyse this decision is a bit like, using the words of the day, walking through mud. So looking at that, it only applies to 20 of 28 days. So effectively, this looks like adding 8% of overtime costs onto businesses going forwards.
OK, Casper Glynn, thank you very much for your expertise this evening.
Thank you.